evening and welcome to the New Bedford Whaling Museum Sailor Series. My name is Emily Mead. I am Director of Philanthropy for the museum, and I am delighted to be here this evening. We look forward every year to the Sailor Series and hearing tales of learning and adventure at sea. This year is no exception. This is the second of our 3-lecture series. So thank you for joining us tonight. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge first that the Sailor Series is supported by Ruth and Hope Atkinson, and it's also supported in part by the Samuel D. Rositsky Lecture Fund. So we're very grateful to both the Atkinson and Rositsky families for helping to sustain this series over many years. And I also want to thank Bay Coast Bank for sponsoring the 2021 Sailor Series and for their support of a number of other museum programs and events throughout the year. So thanks to Bay Coast, our wonderful partners. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. We're virtual tonight, hopefully not forever, but my colleagues and I really look forward to seeing you here at the museum very soon. We have opened from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week with timed ticketing to ensure that we're under capacity limits and allowing ample space for social distancing. So please do come see us on Johnny Cake Hill. I am really pleased to be able to introduce tonight Shelley Brown, who is the Director of Sailors for the Sea at OCEANA. Shelley is a Rhode Island native. She spent most of her life sailing with her family, and she went on to obtain a doctoral degree from the University of Rhode Island with a concentration in microbial ecology in coastal marine environments. And as a former director of the Block Island Maritime Institute and a member of the education team on the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, and also having served as a visiting scientist at the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, Shelley has extensive experience studying the interactions between humans, oceans, and the marine environment. So with this understanding, she comes to us believing that the effects of overfishing and warmer ocean temperatures and temperatures on the earth and extreme weather events have created difficulties for the marine environment. And she has a goal to promote more marine-centric thinking and really hopes to identify and emphasize some of these aspects of our ocean life. So I'm very pleased to welcome Shelley Brown.
Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction, Emily, and thank you so much to the New Bedford Whaling Museum for inviting Sailors for the Sea to speak today about how sailors and boaters can protect our oceans. As Emily mentioned, my name is Shelley, and I'm the Director of Sailors for the Sea powered by OCEANA. I grew up right on the shores of Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island and spent many summer days on the water. And as a family, we used to cruise on our sailboat from Long Island Sound in New York all the way up to the coast of Maine. And my passion for the ocean from sailing and growing up on the shores of Rhode Island led me to get my doctoral degree in marine science. And I was really interested in understanding the impact humans have on our coastal ecosystems. But once I finished my degree, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between the science world and the public and be a part of a science-based organization that was truly engaging and activating people to make a difference for our waterways. And that led me to Sailors for the Sea powered by OCEANA. For those of you who don't know, Sailors for the Sea is an ocean conservation organization that focuses solely on the boating community. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and activate boaters towards protecting our oceans. We are based in Newport, Rhode Island, but we work with boaters across the globe. So before I dive into what we can do to protect the oceans, I just wanted to share a little bit about our core programs. So we have 3 main programs. Our first program is called Clean Regattas. It's a sustainability certification for any water-based event. So we provide a framework of different best practices and help support events to reduce their environmental impact, from being able to eliminate single-use plastics, to preventing toxins from entering the water, to involving the community in any water-based event. And since 2006, we've worked with over 2,600 events and 700,000 sailors across the globe. Our second core program is called KELP, which stands for Kids Environmental Lesson Plans. And this program was originally created for sailing instructors to use on no wind or rainy days. So instead of plugging in a movie, they have these fun hands-on activities to teach kids about what's happening underneath their hulls. So we have 50 different activities. They use very simple materials that you can usually find at home or at your club. And they really engage the kids on different topics like plastic pollution, overfishing, a variety of different things. And we've seen not only sailing programs use the program, but teachers and museums and all different organizations really like these free activities that we have online. And finally, I want to share a little bit more about our green boating initiative today, and really how boaters can make a difference to protect our waterways. I'm sure like many other boaters, while you're on the water, you see the destruction humans are having on our oceans. Maybe you've seen mylar balloons or water bottles, plastic bags, all types of plastics floating in our water. Maybe you've witnessed sea level rise or hurricane damage happening at your yacht club due to the impacts of climate change. Or oil spills and runoff negatively impacting our sensitive coastal ecosystems. Or even harm to marine wildlife like this whale who's entangled in fishing gear. It can be really disheartening to see all of this happening to our beautiful waterways. But witnessing these issues firsthand, we as boaters have a powerful voice to advocate for the oceans. We can do things as individuals on our own boats and as a community of boaters to protect our waterways. So whether you are new to green boating or have been environmentally minded for many, many years, today I hope you come away learning some new information and practical tips that you can hopefully implement on your boat or in your own lives. So how can we as boaters preserve and restore the health of our waterways? We think about this a lot in our organization, and there's a lot of different ways, but today I'm going to focus on the steps that we can take that have the biggest impact. So I've categorized them into 3 overarching green boating tips that I'm going to call the 3 Bs. So the first is be careful about what goes into the water. Sorry. And secondly is be aware of wildlife and habitat. And the third is be an advocate for our oceans. So if you take a step back, we're going to start with the first one, be careful about what goes into the water. So if you take a step back and think about all the different things that can end up in the water, it can be a really long list. You can have soapy water from cleaning your boat, sewage discharge, small spills from filling up your fuel tank, pumping out your bilge, which might have oil or other chemicals, gray water from showering or cleaning the dishes. It's a very long list. And there are many different ways that you can minimize what either goes into the water or try to make sure what ends up in the water is less likely to harm the environment. So I'm going to discuss 3 potential pollutants that may end up in our waterways and what we can do about it. So I'm sure many of you recognize this symbol here and are well aware of the issues, so I'll keep this one brief. Black water or sewage discharge has many negative impacts on our coastal ecosystems. The excess nutrients going into the water can cause algal blooms, which can lead to dead zones and fish kills. Black water can also carry disease-causing organisms, which can be really bad if you want to swim in the water or eat the shellfish that are in the water. And we also add chemicals to our toilets or holding tanks, and if they get released in our coastal ecosystems, can be toxic to marine life. So what can we do to manage our black water on board? Obviously, you want to be using your toilets and holding tanks properly. One of the major keys to managing black water is knowing where the pump out stations are. So first off, identifying pump out stations or maybe even pump out boats in your area or where you plan to travel. So doing a quick Google search will be really helpful on this. And if you're planning a trip to go somewhere like the Caribbean, they might not have pump out stations available. So doing your research ahead of time is really great. If you're not able to do that, knowing the location of where your node discharge zones are, so the node NDZs, and if you are going to be pumping, make sure that you're pumping offshore and at least 3 miles offshore, so no matter where you're located. If you're in a marina, I'm sure you all recognize this rainbow. filling up our tanks is one of the most common ways that we unintentionally pollute our waters. Even a tiny spill is toxic to our waterways that it can harm both animals and plants. In fact, 64% of the oil and fuel that enters North American waterways, marine waters every year is from land-based runoff and recreational boats. So the small spills really do add up. And the cost to prevent a spill is significantly less than the cost to clean it up. So here are some tips to help prevent fuel from sneaking into the ocean. So first, you want to check your fuel lines and tanks to make sure that there's no damage. It's also really helpful to know the capacity of your fuel tank. So boat fuel tanks aren't pressurized like car fuel tanks. So the automatic shutoff valve on the nozzle doesn't always work. So it's really helpful to know the capacity of a fuel tank and fill your tank slowly. There's also some really cool items that you can buy to make sure that the small spills don't leak into the water. So you might have some of those drips and spills from the nozzle. You just want to make sure those don't enter the water. So there's bibs that can go around the fuel intake, or what's pictured here is a fuel collar, which goes around the fuel nozzle. You can also store a spill kit on board, which is a really good idea, and making sure that you have a plan if a spill does occur. So you want to be, if you're in a marina, contact the marina or the fuel dock, and if the fuel spill makes a sheen, you should call the Coast Guard and make sure that you're getting their advice on how to properly clean the fuel spill. Finally, you really want to be cautious with portable fuel cans if you're filling up your dinghy. According to the EPA, over 70,000 gallons of fuel is spilled by the use of portable fuel cans every year. So that's a significant amount of fuel that's ending up on our land and in the waters. And we just want to make sure that we're being very cautious when you're filling up your dinghy or small boats. And the third pollutant I want to talk about is cleaning products. We get tons of questions on cleaning products, and we all want to keep the inside and outside of our boats clean and in tip-top condition, but some cleaning products are harmful to aquatic life, the water quality, and the overall ecosystem. Most cleaning products aren't made to be directly released into the waterways. Some chemicals can damage fish tissues, while others create nutrient balances that lead to those algal blooms that I was mentioning before. And most products are actually created to go through wastewater treatment facilities where the majority of contaminants and chemicals are removed before the water goes back into rivers, lakes, and oceans. So I want to provide you a few tips to prevent damage that's happening to our marine ecosystems. So some basic tips are: regularly rinse your boat and boat parts with fresh water, so water-only washdowns. If you're doing this, hopefully it stops the salt buildup, the grime, and the dirt, and you don't need to use those harsh chemicals down the line. You can also use designated washdown areas. Some marinas have this if you're trailering your boat, or if you have items you want to clean. Make sure you're using those areas, or clean items in grass, which can absorb runoff from the chemicals. And then also choosing a cleaning product that is better for the environment. And this can be overwhelming, and I'll get to this one in a little bit. But finally, using the cleaning products sparingly if possible. So again, using water when you can, a bit more elbow grease, and then using those cleaning products sparingly. So it can be really overwhelming to find the right eco-friendly cleaning product, but I hope these few tips will help in that process. So you really want to watch out for greenwashing. Manufacturers of cleaning products are not required to list the ingredients on their containers, so you might not have any idea what's actually in your cleaning product. And there's also no regulation on the green words, so they can put biodegradable, non-toxic, eco-friendly on the bottle, and that has no meaning. So you really want to do your research. There's two different sites that I recommend. The EPA has a Safer Choice website where you can see if your product is on their site, and they're working with the chemical companies or cleaning companies to figure out what ingredients are in their products and if those are safer products to use. And then I also recommend using the Environmental Working Group's Guide to Healthy Cleaning. And you can also look at your cleaning products there. The challenge is not a lot of marine related products are on these two sites. So we have a couple of recommendations. So Simple Green is an EPA safer choice, and they have a marine version of the Simple Green, which is really great. And then there's a brand called EcoWorks that makes a variety of different cleaning products for all different parts of your boat. So it could be like your fabrics on your boat. They make dish soap, they make laundry soap, and they make, surface cleaners and things like that. They're a UK-based company, and they've been certified in the UK. And the Boat US Foundation has also done a really cool, they did a great research project in 2009 where they looked at 20 different cleaning products, and they recommended some really great ones that are non-toxic and also work on your boat. And unfortunately, a lot of those products have, they're not on the shelves anymore. So they recently updated their research in 2019, and they have some recommendations as well. And those are also on our website. So I recommend taking a look at those. So it's really important to do your research, making sure that you're using the best products that are out there that aren't going to impact our environment. You can also make your own homemade cleaners with items that you might already have in your galley or at home. So these are 7 different products that will hopefully help you clean most things that are on your boat. So both vinegar and lemon juice are acidic, and are strong cleaning agents that can dissolve dirt, debris, and grime. And they're also antibacterial. They aren't disinfectant, but they will kill a lot of foodborne pathogens. Both baking soda and cream of tartar are slightly abrasive, and they're also strong cleaning agents when you mix them into a paste with water. But you just want to be careful using baking soda around certain type of metals. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But in its place, you can use cream of tartar. So baking soda is mildly alkaline, and cream of tartar is mildly acidic. And then borax is alkaline, another great strong cleaning agent. It gets rid of stains, mold, mildew, and it helps neutralize odors. Salt is a great scouring agent. It also boosts the cleaning and deodorizing action of other ingredients. So it's a great add-on to making your own homemade cleaners. And then finally, hydrogen peroxide is a natural disinfectant that is both antibacterial and antiviral. So it's really great to use on surfaces that you want to disinfect. So I'm going to give you some quick recipes on how to make some homemade cleaners. For an all-purpose cleaner, all you need is white vinegar and a gallon of water. So if you're cleaning your whole boat, you can put a cup of white vinegar and a gallon of water. Using a brush or a sponge, you can clean most of your boat. If you want to make like one in a spray bottle, you do 1 part white vinegar, 1 part water. You can also add lemon rind if you want to make it smell nicer. And then that's a great all-purpose cleaner that's in a spray bottle. For aluminum, you want to use the 2 tablespoons of cream of tartar in a quart of hot water, and then use a cloth or a soft brush to clean aluminum. And this is the metal that if you use baking soda, it would oxidize. So you don't want to use baking soda on aluminum. For a stain remover that's on fiberglass, you can make a paste with baking soda and water, and that usually gets out most stains if you use a little elbow grease in your fiberglass. And then for a stainless steel cleaner, you can also use baking soda. Again, make a paste, use a sponge or a soft brush, and that will clean your stainless steel metals. And if you have water spots afterwards, you can put white vinegar on a cloth, and that will get rid of all the water spots on your stainless steel. For sails, aggressive cleaning can actually weaken the fabric, so you want to be really careful about how you properly clean your sails. So you want to be careful about the cleaning products and the devices that you use. So you can make a mixture with 1 to 2 cups borax detergent and a gallon of warm water. You first rinse your sail with water and then soak it with, use a sponge to soak the sail with this mixture, and then let it sit for 2 hours. Then you thoroughly clean it with fresh water, and you let your sail to hopefully dry out in the sun somewhere. And usually that gets rid of most mold and mildew stains, and your sail will be looking like new. And then finally, for life jackets, you can use white vinegar again. So just soak your life jackets for about 30 minutes in a cup of white vinegar that's in a gallon of water. Then again, rinse it thoroughly with water. If you want to disinfect your life jackets, then you can also do that same thing with a cup of hydrogen peroxide in a gallon of water. And then make sure you let it dry thoroughly outside in the sun so that mold doesn't grow on it. And then if you have mildew on any type of fabric, like a life jacket or other fabrics on your boat, you can make a little paste with 1 part lemon juice and 1 part salt, so it has that scouring agent, and that can really help get mildew out of all different types of fabrics on your boat. So with all these cleaning products, whether they're homemade or you're buying cleaning products, you really just want to try to make sure that you're not letting as much as possible into the water, because we just want to prevent that from going into our waterways. But if it's not possible, understandable. But you also don't want to forget other sources of gray water on your boat. So if you shower on your boat, you want to be careful of the shampoos, the body soaps that you use. Maybe there's laundry on board. Be careful of the laundry detergents and dish soaps. And again, use those same sources that I sent you or mentioned before to check out your products and making sure that they're more environmentally friendly. So now moving to the second B, be aware of marine wildlife and habitat. One of the many joys of boating is being out in nature and being able to see all different types of animals. As boaters, there are many different things that we can do to preserve and protect our coastal ecosystems and marine wildlife. And first, it's important to know, what type of animals are found in your region, from seabirds to sea turtles to whales. Some of these animals are migratory, so you want to know when they're in your area, at what time of year. By knowing these animals, it can be also fun to try to look for them while you're out boating as well. So a good rule of thumb for boating around animals is remain at least 300 feet away and limit your viewing time to 30 minutes. So if it's a whale, a lot of boats might want to be able to see these different types of wildlife, and you don't want to stress out the animals or disturb their behavior at all. So making sure that you're staying far away and limiting your viewing time will really be helpful. You also can be eyes on the water. So if you do see an entangled or endangered or a dead marine animal, it's important to contact the Coast Guard and let them know information about, where you saw the animal, what type of shape the animal was in, and they can help be able to work with you on potentially helping that animal. So these are just a few steps on what you can do to protect marine wildlife while boating. The New Bedford Whaling Museum is a part of a really great partnership with the Whale and Dolphin Conservation and the Rhode Island Audubon Society, which have developed great resources on how to identify different whales while you're out boating, which can be really helpful, and how to properly boat around those marine mammals as well. So I highly recommend checking out their Sharing the Seas program. Next, how to protect sensitive ecosystems. We all want to make sure that our sensitive ecosystems like coral reefs, seagrass beds, and shellfish beds are protected. These are really essential habitats. Coral reefs and seagrass beds are important nurseries for countless fish and other animals. Seagrass beds also sequester more carbon than terrestrial trees, and so they're really important habitats for combating climate change. Shellfish also help filter pollutants out of the water. So we want to protect and potentially restore these important ecosystems. So seagrass beds and most coral reefs need light, so they're going to be found in shallow locations. So you want to see if you can identify the location of these different ecosystems. And some places have marked out where you should anchor, where you shouldn't anchor. But you could also utilize charts, fishing maps, and local boating guides, and they'll give you important information about how to get familiar with these different areas that you're boating so that you're avoiding damaging these ecosystems. And what you want to do is make sure your anchor and the anchor chain is in mud or sand, and just avoid those sensitive habitats. Another emerging issue is seagrass scarring, which is caused by boats entering shallow waters. So the propeller or the hull of the boat can come in contact with seagrass, and then it grinds up the sandy substrate, the root system, and seagrass, and actually leaves a scar in the seagrass. So you really want to be careful when you're boating in shallow waters, and making sure that you're not coming in contact with seagrass. I think they said in southern Florida, more than 30,000 acres of seagrass beds have been damaged by boat propellers and hulls, which is a lot. And so making sure that you're aware of where seagrass beds are. If you do go aground, turning off your engine, pulling up your motor, and trying to push yourself out with a pole or getting out of the water and pushing your boat out is really a good idea to protect seagrass beds. And finally, the last B is be an advocate for our oceans. So there's so many different ways that you can be an advocate for our oceans. You could be a part of different citizen science projects. We've seen a lot of boaters participating by, collecting data while they're out on their boats. You can also share messages with your community on how to make a difference for our seas. So sharing some of these tips. Or you can take action on a specific issue. So we have a group of more than 30,000 boaters who have become green boaters. So they're making changes on an individual level, but they're also helping us, supporting us on a specific issue that our oceans face. So I'm going to focus on one topic that resonates with many boaters, and they keep coming to us wanting to know that they can do more about, and that's plastic pollution. So I know a lot of boaters or many of you probably have already converted to using reusable items and trying to limit your single-use plastics. But every year, 17.6 billion pounds of plastic waste enters our ocean. That's equivalent to dumping a garbage truck of plastic into the ocean every single minute. Plastics have been found floating in the middle of the ocean, on remote islands, melting out of sea ice in the Arctic. They've been even found at the deepest point of the ocean floor. Plastics are everywhere, and plastic waste is really just increasing. And what the problem comes down to is that companies are producing too much throwaway plastic. So before I dive into some solutions, I want to share a couple of plastic myths that I thought you might be interested in. So the first myth is that all plastics are recyclable. And I'm sure many of you have seen those 3 chasing arrows that are up here on the screen. And they make a little triangular loop, and you've seen an item with that on there and you thought this package can and will be recycled, but that's not necessarily the case. So I know this slide is very complex, complicated, but that's really the point. There are so many different types of plastic. And this chart represents the resin identification code system that was created by and for the plastics industry. So each number on the left signifies a different category of plastics. The number 1 are the clear plastics. So that would be like your water or soda bottles. Number 2s are slightly heavier plastics like milk jugs or detergent bottles. The number 3s are PVC. So that's plastic piping and vinyl flooring. Number 4s are the low density or thin plastics. So anything that's really flexible, like your plastic bags or food wrappers. 5 are really tough plastics, such as bottle caps, bottle lids, or maybe yogurt containers. Number 6 are polystyrene or styrofoam. So these would be your takeout containers or egg trays. And then finally, 7 is the catch-all category for other types of plastic, which is aptly named other. So as you can see on the right hand of the screen, the 4, 6, and 7s are not or are rarely recyclable. And the 3s and 5s are often not recyclable. So it's really the only 1s and 2s are recyclable, but they're not recycled in any significant amount, which leads me to my second myth. And that's recycling is an effective solution to the plastic pollution crisis. It's not. As you just saw, there are types of plastics that are not recyclable. Different types of plastics, and there's so many different types of plastics that can contaminate our waste stream. So if we think things are recyclable and we just throw them in our recycle bin, they might actually be contaminating what plastics can be recycled. And then when plastics are recycled properly, they're actually downcycled to a product of lesser value. So out of all the plastic waste ever produced, only 9% has effectively been recycled. And without immediate change, the total amount of plastic waste is expected to double by 2025. So again, as I mentioned, many of you are probably already doing your part to reduce, reuse, and rethink your consumption of throwaway plastics. But here's a few tips if you're not already doing them. The first is utilizing a water filtration system on board. So instead of packing your boat with lots of single-use water bottles or drink bottles, you can utilize your water filtration system on board and try to eliminate that type of single-use plastic. You can also replace single-use items with reusables. So you can use reusable dinnerware, utensils, to-go-ware, containers to store your food, and just seeing different areas where you can replace with reusable items. And next is shopping smart. So try to buy in bulk. Usually when you buy in bulk, it comes with less plastic waste. And if you're going to bring things on board, try to make sure that you remove any plastic before you get on board so it doesn't blow overboard. And then finally, support plastic-free companies. Some companies are coming up with really cool alternatives, and it's important to support those. And then supporting initiatives. Maybe you want to start a plastic-free initiative locally. You could work with your club, marina, or maybe even your local watering hole to eliminate throwaway plastics. So you could potentially start small with maybe straws and utensils, and then encourage them to get to change their dinnerware if that's in single-use plastics, and water bottles and all different types of things. And so if places are becoming plastic-free, they won't buy single-use plastic products from the producers, and it's a great way to start on a local level to make a difference. And we've seen success with a lot of clubs that we've worked with over the years to start making that difference on a local level. But again, the reality is that throwaway plastics are still getting made in massive quantities. So to stop the plastic pollution from entering oceans, we really must reduce the amount of throwaway plastics being created and produced. So we need companies to dramatically reduce the amount of plastic that they're providing and selling to us. So this is something that we're working on to reduce the production of throwaway plastics. And there's a few ways that we're doing that on a larger level. So for example, policies like plastic bans can be a very helpful way to reduce throwaway plastics. There are many counties and cities that are starting to ban certain types of plastics. And the focus of these bans is usually based on what most common items that you might find out in the environment. So your plastic bags or utensils, straws, and takeout containers. Last year, New York State passed a ban on styrofoam material for takeout containers and packaging, which was really exciting. So we've seen momentum building on these local levels throughout the United States, but we really need to put our foot on the accelerator. So we are calling on the US government to pass legislation on a national level to reduce ocean plastic pollution. There's the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act is the first of its kind bill that has been introduced to Congress, and it would phase out certain single-use plastics and shift the burden of the plastic waste on the companies that produce it rather than on the consumers, us. And so far, we've had more than 2,500 voters already sign this petition. And if you're interested, you can go to sailorsforthesea.org/fedbill if you want to sign this petition. But we're asking Congress to support this bill, and we're really gaining support on this campaign from the voting community. However, we also need to get companies, in addition to bans, we also need to get companies to offer plastic-free choices. So as you probably have noticed, it's very challenging to live a plastic-free life. When we go shopping or eat at a restaurant or order something online, we're not always given the option to avoid buying plastic. And if you think about provisioning your boat for a long weekend away, you head to the grocery store to buy supplies and everything's in plastic. Your fruit or strawberries and blueberries are in plastic containers. Your bread and rice are in plastic bags. If you're buying soap, it's in a plastic bottle. It's really hard to get away from. But there are some companies that are, as I mentioned, are starting to come up with really cool solutions to the plastic problem. So there's something that we do every single day, or hopefully most people do, maybe hopefully twice a day, is brush our teeth. And there's this cool company that's called Bite. And they, instead of using, they have developed bamboo toothbrushes and these toothpaste tablets. So instead of getting toothpaste out of a plastic tube, you get these toothpaste tablets in a glass jar and you chew on them, you brush your teeth with the bamboo toothbrush, and they're refillable jars. So once you finish all the tablets, you send the refillable glass jar back and they fill it up and send it back to you. So then you're eliminating plastic. So we just need more companies to come up with innovative solutions like that. And another campaign that we're working on is for Amazon. So maybe when you order supplies for your boat online, or you've been ordering things in the pandemic, I know I've been ordering a lot of things online, a lot of it comes wrapped in plastic, or you get those plastic pillows in your boxes. So we recently launched a campaign targeting Amazon. Every day, thousands of products on Amazon are shipped with plastic packaging, wrapping, and cushioning materials that are unnecessary. In 2019 alone, Amazon shipped 7 billion packages. That's huge. So we're calling on Amazon to offer customers a plastic-free packaging choice, and we're looking for support from the boaters and ocean lovers. And so if you're interested in signing this petition, it's sailorsforthesea.org/Amazon. And so these are just a couple of the campaigns that we're working on to reduce the production of throwaway plastics. So again, just to wrap up on how boaters can protect our waterways. First, be careful about what goes in the water. So just be aware of anything that can end up in the water and how we can try to prevent that from getting in the water, or making sure that it doesn't have an impact on our marine ecosystems. And then be aware of wildlife and habitat. It's really helpful to know what's out there and making sure that we're not having a negative impact on wildlife or habitat. And finally, be an advocate for our oceans. So there's so many things that boaters could do to be a leader and to be a voice for protecting our seas. So if you're interested in learning more about green boating tips, or on how you can get involved on issues like plastic pollution, you can join our green boating community at this link. And when you sign up, you will receive our free digital green boating guide. And so this green boating guide covers the different topics that I mentioned today, plus a lot more. It's a pretty dense guide, but it also has a top 10 checklist of what you can do now to be environmentally responsible on the water. So we're actually releasing the new version of this guide next week with updated information and research, and we have 2 new topics. One is talking about repurposing gear. I know there's a lot of gear that goes into boating, and what do you do at the end life of that gear? So some really interesting things coming out. So finally, I just want to thank you all for tuning in and listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Shelley, thank you so much. That was wonderful and really fascinating. A lot of things to think about that, that we might not have otherwise. So I really appreciate the presentation and all the great resources that you have compiled. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is coming from a question that was put in the chat. And we have Catherine asking, does Sailors for the Sea have other chapters around the country, or are you more regional than Newport? So what's the structure of the organization like?
Yeah, so we actually, so we're now part of a bigger organization called OCEANA, which is the largest international ocean conservation in the world. And we have offices in, I believe, 11 different countries. But for the Sailors for the Sea side of things, we're headquartered in Newport, Rhode Island, but we work with boaters globally. So for example, the Clean Regattas program has been used by 40 different countries. And we just launched this new program last year called our Skippers program. And so these are volunteers that are, well connected in their sailing communities. And we have, I believe we just onboarded a few more. So 17 volunteers across the United States who are helping to support our mission. So if you're interested in learning more, look up Skippers on our website and you can see more about that program. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was trying to not be distracting, and it backfired, as these things sometimes do. We actually have one of our participants saying, please be sure to send us the links for joining and also the recording so we can review and share with other boaters, which I think is really important. You referenced the ambassadors, the skippers program that you have. It's really important to hear it from people you know and trust. And when you're out and about at your club or your marina, it's really easy to spread the word that way. So if you do have some links that you are able to share in the chat, that would be really amazing. I had one question for you, actually. I wonder, you mentioned your green boaters. Is that an official certification, or is that anyone who chooses to participate by, is that an official certification? Is there a training, or are the materials sort of the training themselves?
Yeah, the materials are more of the training themselves. So we had thought about potentially doing a certification similar to what we do with the Clean Regattas program. That is an actual certification program. But we thought, just sharing that information, people that are signing up care about the oceans, they want to learn more. So we're giving that information to them. So it's not necessarily certification, but signing up as a supporter.
That's wonderful. And I see Jocelyn, thank you for responding. I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw Jocelyn's response, that the webinar recording will be on the museum's YouTube channel. So we can check that out. I think Jocelyn's going to do a little editing. Maybe she'll edit out my failure to unmute myself. I don't know if she has that ability, but it would be great if she could. But look out for that recording. It will be on the Whaling Museum's YouTube channel. So that'll be a resource there too. You mentioned early on also the CALE program, the kids program. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about some of the topics that are covered there, and what the kids are working on rainy days when they can't go out.
Yeah, definitely. So it consists of 50 different activities. They're all really straightforward, easy. They're made for people that don't have a science or an education background. So very simple materials. I can give you an example. One's about the salty ocean. So all you need is salt water, and then 2 food coloring dyes. And you can see the difference in densities from freshwater to saltwater. And it's just a really cool, fun activity to do with kids. And so they cover a wide variety of topics like plastic pollution. So it's exploring your kind of like doing a beach cleanup, and you can explore how long it takes for different items to degrade. There's overfishing activities, activities on climate change. So, but a lot of them are games and help kids, they don't know that they're learning the issues. So it's really fun. A lot of them are games where they don't know they're learning, but they're learning.
That's great. And when you get kids started early, then they sticks with them for the rest of their lives. I know my daughter won't let me leave the beach without carrying at least 75 pounds of garbage off with me. So.
Exactly.
I have one more question here, Catherine. Thank you. As an architect, she says, we work really hard to achieve certifications for green buildings, probably the lead and passive house certifications, I'm assuming, Catherine, energy efficient buildings and living buildings. So I think the time is now for floating buildings certifications. If you'd like to comment, but I suspect you would agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's there's companies that are, they care about the environment, they care about the products that are going in, the materials that they're using. And I think that's really important. I think that's, especially now that we're seeing the end life, what do you do with your boat if it's at its end life? And, there are programs that are working. I know I think it's Rhode Island Sea Grant is working to, what do you do with the fiberglass in a boat? How can we potentially recycle it into something more usable? But it's really important to know what products are going into these boat builds and what the future plans are for them. So I think that's a really great idea.
Whole cradle to cradle way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
We did have another question, the comment. One of our participants, one of our attendees has asked for the recipe for the cleaning solutions. Would that be in the green boater materials? Is that in that packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be in the green boating guide. And if you go to our website under green boating, there's just a tab that says non-toxic cleaners, and it has all the recipes and exactly what you need for everything there.
I can remember the ingredients, but never the proportions, which are really important. This is why I don't bake. So, all right, we got some thank yous. Well, we are getting up to time, but I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone else. Oh, thank you. I see that you did go ahead and put the link for the green voter information in the chat. Well, I really want to thank you, Shelley, for being here and for a really informative and very actionable, a list of pursuable actions. So I will definitely be looking for the Amazon plastic-free packaging petition. I would encourage others to do the same. 7 billion packages is shocking. I think only half of those came to my house during lockdown.
That was before the pandemic too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. That is alarming.
Yep.
But yeah, really great and really interesting to hear. I think we all have the opportunity to vote with our dollars, our consumer dollars, to make change by even just calling. One of our previous panelists said that he and his team contacted one of the suppliers that they use and said, look, we can't continue to purchase your products unless you can find a way to ship this stuff without disposable plastic
Yeah, it's so important
wrappers. And they could.
Yeah,
they could, and they did. And so it can be small changes can add up, and sometimes you just have to speak up and ask, and tell manufacturers and brands what matters to you. So
definitely.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
you
you being here. And thanks to all of our attendees for joining us tonight. The next Sailor Series event will be the third and final event in our Sailor Series this year. And it will be 2 weeks from now, Thursday evening. So join us then too. Thanks so much, Shelley.
Thank you.